What's up, Big Blue? What's up, Giants fans? Brandon London here. The showcase, Colorado showcase, just wrapped up. So this is our showcase, the New York Post, Colorado live reaction, live stream, or our pro day. I've got longtime Giants super fan, LPG license plate guy that's going to be hopping on right now. We also have former Giants first rounder, longtime guard, longtime NFL guard, Justin Pugh in the building. Fellas, the showcase. I had these. I feel like you two are the perfect people to have on. First, because Joe, obviously, you're the man when it comes to the fan base. You know the temperature. You know who people they want the Giants to draft. Justin Pugh, you can walk us along on what it's like to be a former first rounder targeted by the Giants. But first, I'm gonna say what's up to you guys. Pew, the mic is yours first. What's going on, my man?
Well, I will say this, man. I walked through the tailgate at a Thursday night football game with Joe. Every single person stopped him. People were looking at me and they're like, "Man, you're too skinny to play offensive line." But the license plate guy, man, he has a cult following. It was unbelievable to see. But since I've gotten to the Giants and even years before, the dedication always behind the fan base. So shout out to you, Joe. I appreciate it. I do. And then Brandon, thanks for having me on, man. Me and you have known each other for a decade plus as well.
Yeah,
The work you've put in, in front of the fan base and behind the scenes, always grinding. I just did a week seminar with the NFL thinking about like life outside, and you are the epitome of that. So thanks for both of you guys having me on. But the reason we're here, Shedeur and Travis showed us a little bit today, man. I mean, now the question becomes, do we think Travis plays defensive back, or those routes were looking pretty crispy. And Brandon, I'll ask you, man, guys are making $40 million playing receiver right now. If I'm Travis's dad, I'm like, hey, maybe we're playing receiver over defensive back, right?
No, man, you play both, because if guys are making 40 million at receiver and you can ball out at both receiver and DB, you may be worth 75 yourself because of the value that you bring. We've never seen a kid like this. And Pew, I talked to you down at the Super Bowl, and we were kind of talking draft, we're talking Giants, but also got a chance to talk to Champ Bailey. And Champ Bailey, who was kind of one of the original two-way players of our generation, was saying that this kid, Travis Hunter, is everything is advertised, plus some more, plus add a little bit more on top of that. So I feel like a lot of people are kind of shying away from him because he's the unknown. He doesn't fit into one of the a fantasy box of like, where do we put him? How do we use him? I know how to use him on Madden. I can't wait to get him on Madden. So if I'm Joe Shane, I'm Brian Dable, Shane Bowen, just watch my live streams on Madden. This is how you use Travis Hunter. Joe, you go to all the drafts. You go to all the Giants games. You watched the showcase today. I mean, what kind of, from a fan standpoint and for you knowing Giants football, who do you think fits the most?
Hey, look, I looked at this pro day as Shedeur Sanders pro day, not Travis Hunter's,
Really?
not Colorado's. The only reason why I looked at it that way is Travis Hunter is just a lock at wherever he wants to be. You could take Travis Hunter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, doesn't matter. He's going to fit into anybody's scheme right away. And just like you both said, it doesn't matter where you put him. If he's going at number 3 to the Giants, you immediately put him into the cornerback slot, okay? And then you could pick and choose which 40, 50 plays that you want him to play on offense, which I'm sure that Dave's and company will put together however many plays they want for the ultimate weapon. But again, I watched it. I watched everything. He's so smooth, so crisp in the route running. It's unbelievable. But the day, in my eyes, was finding more about Shedeur Sanders. And guys, this isn't a secret. You're not getting everything you want out of a pro day. You're not having a line. You're not having anybody come at him. You're not doing any of that. So, I mean, look, the Giants sent 72 people to see him today. I'm surprised you two weren't there as well. And at the end of the day, I don't know how much more you're going to get from Shedeur Sanders on his pro day. You either know by now or you don't know by now.
Yeah, I'm surprised they didn't have me, him, C, and MC the entire showcase. You know what I mean? I'm a let's go Colorado, whatever they need. But yeah, I mean, when you sit in the house like that, Jesse Armstead was there, like Shea Tierney. Everybody was there to watch this. Was it two-part question? Was it more to watch Travis or was it more to watch Shedeur? And then on the flip end of it, what's that process like for these guys now after? Because now you can have the official visits, you can have private workouts. What's it going to be like for these guys, not only the players, but coaching staff and the regime leading up to the first round, that third pick?
Yeah, first things, they're there to see both guys, right? You want to talk to both of them, get more of a feel for it. You're spending the third overall pick on someone. You need to know them inside and out. So they're there to see both. Obviously, the Giants are looking at the quarterback position every day. And what I've learned through this process and talking to guys that have played the position, have scouted the position, have coached the position, you need shots on goal at the quarterback spot. I talked to Chad Brinker, who came up. He's now the head of football operations for the Tennessee Titans, and they have the number 1 overall pick. It seems like Cam Ward is a shoe in there. But he was with Green Bay, and they always talked, you never want to go 2 years without having a quarterback on the roster, fresh blood, fresh competition. So I've always been a proponent of getting darts on the dartboard because you never – and I'm not referencing Jackson Dart here, but I am saying that you want to have multiple guys out there because you always want to have competition. You never know if you're going to go find Russell Wilson in the later rounds. You're going to go find, Green Bay had Matt Flynn the one time. I'm not saying these guys were like franchise quarter Russell Wilson was, but you want to constantly have those guys in the hopper. So just because we signed Russell Wilson, just because we signed Jameis Winston, does not mean that they're not looking quarterback at 3. Now, if I'm the New York Giants, I'm looking at Travis Hunter as a transcendent talent. But you never know. What if someone calls you that they really want Shedeur at 3 and they're willing to offer a boatload of picks, or they're, offering something that you just can't turn down? The question becomes, what do you do in that scenario? And for me, the Giants weren't at my pro day. They weren't all over me, scouting me. The draft, things happen. What if Tennessee trades out and Cam Ward's available at 3? You have to do your homework on guys like this because you never know how the draft's going to shake out. Abdul Carter, everyone's saying, oh, he's a surefire fit at Cleveland at 2. Cleveland might not be there. Cleveland might all of a sudden decide to go a different direction. So you have to be ready for the unexpected. I've heard coaches and GMs mention they 100% thought this player was going to be there and they're drafting him. And then all of a sudden someone else goes and everything gets thrown. All hell breaks loose. Who's the next best pick? So you have to have 2 or 3 guys at that number 3 spot. And if you have a chance to trade back and get value, you do it because we're building for the future. We're not just building to try to win this year. And that's something that Joe Shane has come out and said. When you have to draft for need, sometimes that bites you in the butt.
I'm gonna stay on you, Pew, and then I got a question for you, LPG. So, all right. So let's say they do. Let's say someone comes and makes an offer they can't refuse, and trade back. They miss out on Shedeur, and now they are in the second or third tier of draftable quarterbacks, the Jalen Milroes, the Riley Leonards, the Will Howards, those guys. Pew, they drafted Davis Webb in the 3rd round when you were a Giant. They drafted Cal Luletta in the 4th round when you were a Giant, I believe.
I just left, so I missed Kyle.
Okay, so you were just left. But Davis Webb going to be a head coach in the NFL one day, but in terms of NFL careers, quarterback, that didn't translate to any wins for the Giants. So if it's a situation where you feel like, all right, they may be trying to give me all types of picks to trade back, is all business ain't good business? Do you still have to? Is there a chance you might have to turn that down to go with Shedeur if you've identified him as that's your guy at 3?
Well, look, I'm not in those meeting rooms to see how we value that position on the team. But you think about, you bring in a Russ and you bring in a Jameis, that's signaling to the fan base, hey, we have guys that we know are going to be our starting quarterbacks. We don't have to press. We can go out there tomorrow and play a football game with the team that we have. Russell's going to be your starting quarterback. Jameis is going to be your backup. You do not have to force a quarterback. If you don't think this is the deepest class, I do a show with Jay Gruden and Colt McCoy, 2 guys that have played quarterback and evaluated quarterbacks at a high level. If they were putting these quarterbacks in with last year's class, Cam Ward wouldn't even have been a top 3 pick, and now he's going to go number 1 overall. They wouldn't have had Shedeur in their top 5. So I don't know if this is the strongest quarterback class. What I do know, you got a ton of defensive linemen. which I know that is always a good thing to have defensive linemen on your. I don't think this O-line class is as deep as it was last year either. I don't think Will Campbell and Kelvin Banks from Texas are as good as the guys were last year. Joe Alt was in a league of his own. And then you look at Olu Fashanu down there at the Jets. He was in a league of his own. So when you look at where the strengths are in the draft, the good teams aren't always reaching. The good teams take the best player that's on the board at that time. And I think the Giants set themselves up to take the best player or the best situation possible at 3, which is a great place to be if you're a Giants fan.
Joe.
Yeah, I agree with him, except when you're in a position to draft that quarterback, like London said, then maybe it's not always best available. Maybe you do take that shot. I mean, you go back to you guys, you're talking about trading. I mean, we don't have to go back too far to look at a general manager that wouldn't pick up the phone at 2 and was set at picking his person no matter what the call was, Brandon. Just like you said, sometimes you're just not going to pick up the phone. I think the Giants learned their lesson that phone's going to be picked up no matter what, whether you got a Herschel Walker type deal, whether you got a Ricky Williams type deal on your hands, and maybe you go out because obviously the Giants need more than just 1 or 2 pieces. I totally agree with what Justin said. You're looking at Russell Wilson, Jameis Winston and Tommy DeVito over Daniel Jones, DeVito, and who was the third quarterback?
Drew Lock.
And Drew Lock. All right. So, you're talking about a huge upgrade. I know there have been some talk that it's not such a big upgrade. It's a tremendous upgrade. And that for the Giants fan base to get angry at that, I mean, the Giants are in a no-win situation. They addressed the room. They made it a little bit easier for themselves come draft day. Okay, now it's not 100% you're going to take a quarterback. I still think it's 65 to 70% that they are going to go that way. I've said it in the beginning. I'm sticking to that. And that may be leaving an Abdul Carter or a Travis Hunter on the board.
And I know Joe Shane said it, how he's put them in a position to not have to take quarterback. Pew, you just said the same thing. But Joe, we saw planes being flown over top of MetLife Stadium. Abdul Carter is not going to get the people off their back. Travis Hunter might, correct, but that quarterback of the future is going to be at least a draftable quarterback of the future. It will be that person who kind of gets the fan base off of Joe Shane, Brian Dable's back for a little bit. So are their hands still kind of tied to where they do have to?
Look, I'm agreeing with you. I think that shot has to be made. That doesn't, and you know what? It's like X amount of people out there will be absolutely furious because what if you swing and miss when you had a generational talent on the board and you went and took a swing at a quarterback that wasn't supposed to go at number 3 in some people's minds. But you know what? You take that swing, and if you miss, you swing again.
Yeah. Pew, you're talking about doing the show with Jay Gruden and Colt McCoy. When you guys are breaking down Shedeur Sanders and what he brings, not only athletically and on the field, but the intangibles, do those guys say that he is a fit for a Brian Dable type offense?
Oh, 100%. And I think you saw a little bit on display today in his pro day, his deep ball touch, but really how he's going to be able to handle the New York environment and the New York media. I don't think there is a better quarterback set for the New York market than Shedeur Sanders. It just depends on where you can get him and the value at which. Like, what if the Giants traded back a few picks and got Shedeur at, so maybe someone came up and got him at 3 or wanted to get someone else at 3, maybe get Travis, and we could go back and get Shedeur, in the 9-10 range. Now, I'm not out here advocating that a trade is going to happen. I'm just saying with the guys that have been in this profession, that have been head coaches and quarterbacks for 30 years combined, that's where they saw Shedeur compared to the other guys last year, the Jaden Daniels and the Caleb Williams and Drake May. Now, what I will say is the intangibles, I don't think anyone has what Shedeur has. No one's played with more pressure on their shoulders since they were 8 years old playing at Pee Wee football. And playing in New York is not the same as everywhere else. We've seen high-round guys come in and struggle to play in New York. And that's the beauty of it, and that's the pain of it. So I would say Shedeur is best set to play for a team like the New York Giants, the New York Jets, one of those teams that has a lot of the media circus around it. And that's something that I think he embraces. You saw how he broke down the huddle when he's in there. He's a leader of men. When you have someone like Travis, who's also an alpha, for Shedeur to still take over and have that leadership role, having Dion as your father, I think all those are great tailwinds for his career in the NFL. And I think he has success no matter where he ends up because he has that mentality. I just don't know if it's 3 to the Giants this year.
We all watched the NFL Network broadcast of this pro day or the showcase, and you kept hearing Baldy and Bucky Brooks and those guys keep talking about Shedeur when throwing the football. Excuse me, fellas. They compared his deep ball to Russell Wilson's moon ball. As a receiver, and I just did this breakdown. Everyone go check out the breakdown I just did on Russell Wilson's moon ball and how it can help the Giants receivers. It can unlock guys like Darius Slayton. It can unlock a Jalen Hyatt, who we've been waiting to see how the Giants are going to really use him because they use a 3rd-round pick on him. So this whole thing where it's like Brian Dable watched over 7,500 plays of Russell Wilson before they kind of made an offer and signed him. I think they did that because they were like, all right, if we get Russell Wilson, we can get Shedeur, and that's Russell Wilson 5.0 with pizzazz, with he's super cool. You know what I'm saying? So it brings a whole different light or entertainment when it comes to, MetLife Stadium. Pew, I know you got to wrap it up, man. I know you got to get up out of here. We appreciate you hopping on with us. But final thought, man.
Best available at 3. I like Travis Hunter. He's a guy that can play both ways. He comes in. He's your lockdown corner for the next decade plus, and then he goes over there on offense and gives you like a 3rd down package. We've never seen a guy do what he can do. I just think he's the no-brainer pick, and then it opens up the door for everything else. So that's my 2 cents. I know half the people are gonna hate me, half of them gonna love me. I interviewed Travis Hunter, and his personality is so even keel, man. This kid has fought through the adversity. I love Travis Hunter. I think he's there at 3.
All right, man. Hey, everybody show love to Justin Pugh. We appreciate you hopping on with us, man. Joe, let's keep talking, man, because I just feel like everyone – we read the comments right now. Jay said how we feeling about Sanders people. We kind of been going with that. Imagine getting your future quarterback, no brainer, Travis Hunter. I feel like it's a damned if you do, damned if you don't. Agree. Which is why you'll never hear me say anything about tanking or, lose games. But now I can see why fans wanted the Giants to lose those games so you don't have to deal with being stuck in purgatory on who do you grab.
Yeah, I'm with you with the, you'll never hear me talk about tanking as well. I think that's become old school thinking. I'll still never say it no matter what. However, if you are a game away from knowing you need a franchise quarterback, there are people that I wouldn't have played in that Colts game, and that would have been the neighbors game because
of this reason right here. Because of this
and again, you could look at that any way you want. You could look at that talking out of both sides of your mouth, which it definitely sounds like it, because I just said I'm never going to tell you to tank, but I'm also going to be, it's a business, okay, and we need a competitive team, okay, in the most competitive NFC East, which I think is most competitive in football. It's just me. I mean, it's coming from the Super Bowl champions out of it right now. And I don't know if I would have. I thought he was hurt that game anyway, and sure enough, he's out there playing, and it became the Malik Neighbors game. Yeah. So look, it's funny. You brought up a comment, the first person, about bringing Sanders and his people here. And I want to talk about that for a second, B, because I think Sanders and team, Sanders and crew, I think they're getting a little bit of not a fair shake by saying that the circus would come to town. Yeah. What Deion Sanders brings with his family by drafting Shedeur Sanders, how could you say that after living through Eli Manning and not being able to go to the Chargers and telling him he wouldn't play there or whatever. The same thing that the Mannings, brought to New York, that year. What makes that any different with what Dion wants for his son this year?
Yeah.
So I think, thank God social media wasn't around like this, because I just think that's an unfair shake that the Sanders team gets for that.
And when you look at it, I feel like there's a split or a divide to where it's like, and tell me if I'm right or wrong here, I feel like the older school Giants fans want to pass on Shedeur. The younger school, the more social media based Giants fans are all about Shedeur Sanders coming here. Am I right or am I wrong? Or
no, I think you're dead on. I think if we were talking at number one, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. But since we're talking at three, the mind frame of a fan has to change from we're not getting the number one quarterback in this draft. It will change to the next person, and that happens to be Shedeur Sanders. You're 1,000% correct with the older fan base immediately going to circus. It's so wrong for somebody to talk about somebody's in the negative way only because you don't want them at 3 or only because you don't think they're a good fit, not having anything to do with their play. I only care about your play. I don't care what number you wear. I don't care what attribute. I only care what you could bring to the team. The only thing I don't like about Shedeur Sanders is I don't like him just being 6 foot. I don't like him a little light in the butt. I'd rather him be a bigger quarterback, but you know what? You can't have it all. Do I think the Giants are leaning more quarterback? I said it in the beginning. I'll say it again. I do. You know me. I'll be at the draft. I made a jersey. I have all 4 names ready to rock and roll, and I could care less which 4 it is because the Giants are about to get a lot better.
Yeah, the Tariq S. He says he's in the comments a lot, and he's talking about the quarterbacks that the Giants have in place right now. Journeyman quarterbacks are not the future, and I'm an OG Giants fan, and I think that's where there's a whole that's where there's a divide as well, because me, former receiver, I'm looking at Russell Wilson, and I'm like, all right, he's a serviceable quarterback. I understand the Steelers lost the last 5 games last year, and his numbers took a hit, but that's the way the Steelers are kind of built per se. They want the defense to run the show. Arthur Smith and Brian Dable are 2 different, or Mike Kafka, if we throw him in there, are 2 different play callers, have 2 different styles of offense. The Steelers want to run the ball and not put the defense in any trouble. Brian Dable wants to sling that thing, man.
Yeah, he does. And let me, what if I went back at Tyreek and asked him a question like, okay, Tyreek, would your opinions change if that was Aaron Rodgers and not Russell Wilson? I think Tyreek would come back and stick with, no, they're journeymen. And I will say, look, if you followed me, Brandon, which you do, I could care less who the Giants were getting in free agency. I didn't care. I don't care if it was Aaron Rodgers. I don't care if it was Russell Wilson. I don't care who Joe Flacco. I didn't care who it was, because all along they are not your future. I'm 1,000% agreeing with that comment. They're not your future. Go get your future quarterback.
I got another comment here that I definitely want to talk about, because this is something that I don't think a lot of people know this. Korean Trump supporter says, put Shedeur on the Miami Hurricanes team. And I feel like a lot of people don't understand, like when you watch these 2 guys' tapes, and I did breakdowns on both of them, and Dan Orlovsky came out today and said Shedeur is one of the hardest people.
I saw that, and I saw yours.
Joe, the kid has no time to throw. So when they say like, oh, he's only throwing all these check downs or routes that aren't past 5 yards, that's an extension of the run game, because he had to get the ball out fast. When you watch Cam Ward, bro, he's back there chilling, doing the Dak Prescott warm-up dance. He had a lot better offensive line than the Shedeur Sanders. And my buddy coaches at Nebraska, and he saw the breakdown, and he texted me, and he goes, bro, Shedeur's a dog, bro. He goes, we tried to kill him, and he was still making plays. He goes, if he had an offensive line, they would be in the college football playoffs.
Yeah, that's a really good point that guy brought up. And it's funny that you happened to bring up Dan's breakdown because I watched it right after I watched yours, and I thought Dan was going to go off on Sanders. The way he started talking about, look at it, check down here, and he's got no time, but he's over here. Every single one of his balls are 5 yards or less. And I'm like, oh, here we go. And then he's like, but wait, look at this. And I was like, oh, he literally turned it around. But just like that comment said, you're right. Put him on a different team. Put him on Miami, and you maybe Cam Ward and Shedeur Sanders would be switching 1 and 3.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, especially when you're evaluating quarterback, not every wow throw is made for the NFL. You have to be able to look at boring throws, a check down here, a throwaway there, and that should be part of the evaluation, because what we saw with Caleb Williams at USC, he was able to run around and athletically he was able to hit the corner on Washington State or Northwestern, or some of those teams that he played. But then when he got to the NFL, he was the most sacked quarterback in the NFL, because you can't get away from the O.C. Umenyioras that run 4-4 at DM, the Justin Tuck, these athletic defensive ends, edge rushers that can bend, break, and burst. So sometimes when we're looking at these films or looking and evaluating these films, that little 5-yard throw to a check down to Ahmad Bradshaw that gets you, 30, 40 yards off of that was the play to make. So he's quarterback savvy. He understands how to play the NFL game, and people kind of limit his ceiling because of that. They're like, oh, he's been working with Tom Brady. He's been working with quarterback coaches. There's no ceiling for him. What do you mean? You learn something new on the practice field or in meetings every day you play football.
Yeah, I agree.
You're going up against the Wink Martindales. You're going up against the Rex, Rob, and what's the dad, Ryan. You're going up against those type of defensive minds. You're going to have to learn something or evolve or adapt something within your game. Buddy Ryan is what I was thinking. You're going to have to learn or adapt to your game at all times. Every different game, you're going to come in and have a different type of playing style. So you want a guy who can come in and maybe, pick up the offense right away. A rookie quarterback able to pick the offense up right away, that's unheard of.
That's unheard of. So funny. It's so funny that we're literally spending this entire time talking about Shedeur Sanders. So I kind of know where we're leaning. But again, I think that breakdown of Shedeur, I don't think we have the same kind of breakdown for Hunter because it's already there. Are we trying to talk ourselves into it? Are we trying to make sure that this is the right guy? Sure. I'm about taking a swing. You take Abdul Carter, and Abdul Carter is an immediate impact, shredding a block and absolutely blowing up your play. Yeah. You take Travis Hunter, just like Justin said, and you said, you have a lockdown corner for tons of years to come. And I don't even think it's only a third down passing plays. I think he's in for a whole lot of plays on the offensive side of the ball. And it's exciting and fun to watch. Yeah. You take Cam Ward is gone. So let's just go with the 3. Yeah. And then you take Shedeur Sanders, and there's your only question mark. So I don't get paid for it. You don't get paid to make that draft pick. And that's why we have to lean towards the huge contingency that they sent down there to let us know that, this is the right guy. And I believe in 20 days, we're going to find out.
I want to shout out Amber7 real quick because she says Tom Brady or she, Tom Brady was boring quarterback and is the GOAT QB. Not comparing them, but if you have the fundamentals down, you most likely will be fine. And that's what the NFL is. It's a bunch of ridiculous, freakish athletes who consistently work on the small details and fundamentals because that's the edge.
And maybe one day we'll come back on here and we'll compare the two. We'll compare Sanders to Brady one day. Wouldn't you love that? 20
Absolutely.
years from now.
Yeah, I mean, if the Giants draft Shedeur Sanders and then we're comparing him to Tom Brady, his career, that's a win. Before we wrap up out of here, though, Joe, I want everybody in the chat that's listening. I want everyone listen up real quick because I want y'all to write your answers in real fast. And Joe, we'll talk about this for a little bit before we before we log off. Okay, let's say the Giants pass on or just don't get Carter, Hunter, Sanders. In your order, who do you not want to see if they get taken by a team in the NFC East? If you got to play against Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter or Shedeur Sanders twice a year, who do you not want to see in your order? Go.
Now you're excluding Cam Ward because we think he's going number one.
I think he's going number one. Let's say something.
I agree.
All three.
Yeah, make sure people aren't allowed to say Cam Ward. So if you're asking me that question, I'm going to answer it right now.
Go ahead.
I'm already pissed that I got to get that. Not me. So I wish I was playing, but I get my head knocked off. I'm already pissed that the Giants have to face Parsons 2 times a year. Yeah, I mean, it makes my blood boil every single time that I see him. So that would crush me. I would be really upset if Shedeur Sanders. So it's not Shedeur Sanders. If Russell Wilson goes back to pass and he gets picked twice by Travis Hunter, okay, in 2 times or once in one game and once in another game, I'd be pissed. But I think I would be super pissed if Shedeur Sanders wound up to be the quarterback that some think he would be, passing all over the Giants for a dozen years.
Because now you got to see the Rolly. You
could keep your Rolly.
You can keep.
Pissed. I'm just pissed that they didn't pull the trigger. I would be pissed that they didn't pull the trigger. Pulling the trigger on Travis Hunter, you don't have to pull anything. He's awesome.
That's great.
You don't pull a trigger on Abdul Carter because he's awesome.
Yeah.
The question mark will be there on Shedeur Sanders. And it's funny, I thought you were going to go in a different direction with your question. I thought you were going to say, who don't you want the Giants to draft at 3? If they're all 3 of them were already gone, who would they want? And I think the number one answer would be Jackson Dart. And I think why that would be the number one answer is only because of Daniel Jones. And I'm not saying Jackson Dart is a much better prospect than Daniel Jones was. That is a given. But I think the Giant fan base is so shell-shocked. Either it was the wrong pick, either it shouldn't have been at 6. You could myriad of things of why it didn't work out. Even someone like me, who you could put anybody behind center, you could put anybody on Big Blue, and I'm rooting for you because that's the guy that's playing right now. I think we're so shell-shocked and frustrated as a fan base that if you went and did that again and it didn't work out, it might not be you can't come back from it.
Yeah. And we shall end on that, Joe. Tell the people what you got planned for the draft, how to find you, even though they already know how to find you. But
yeah, hey, it's license plate guy on everything. I've been doing this for a long time. I got to meet unbelievable people like you. And you know what? The best part about it is interacting with the Giants faithful. Yep. It really is the best thing in the world. I'll be at the draft in 20 days. Hopefully one of those players will walk down from that stage, put my, the nameplate right on the back of the jersey, and he'll be the player that we wish he would be for the next dozen years.
Yeah, because we want some excitement at MetLife Stadium, man. We want to see some wins.
Need it.
I go back and forth with people on Twitter sometimes, man. We're all frustrated. We all want the same thing. We're all just trying to say or verbalize or communicate how we think that the team should go. And like you say, we don't get paid to make the decisions. But at the end of the day, we have to stand behind the decisions. But I think this is a big decision for Joe Schoen. Had himself a pretty solid free agency, shored up the defense a bit. You brought in Paulson Adebo, Javon Holland. He addressed the secondary, brought in place gap guys at the quarterback position, re-signed Darius Slayton.
Yeah.
Now that third pick, and you got 5 picks in the top 105. So everyone keep it. A trade back could be a trade up, trade back. Something could be in play when you've got that many picks in the top 105.
Yeah, I think that might be in place somewhere. You've read a whole bunch of scenarios where the Giants might get back into the first round. You know, maybe you take Travis Hunter and somehow you use some of that bait you have to get back in Shedeur later. Yeah. Who knows what the Giants got up their sleeve? It's gonna be something. It's gonna be something.
It's something.
Tell you what, give me an unbelievable body at 3, and then give me all big giant guys the rest of the way.
Ooh, let's do it.
DT, OT, DT, OT, D, don't matter to me.
Let's do it. And if I'm Joe Schoen, I'm putting it on my personal social media because he's catching a lot of heat from Hard Knocks or whatever. I want people to, if I'm him, I'm not posting this on my close friends on Instagram. Like, I'm letting all the Giants nation know, hey, look at the draft class we just put together. Let's go. Let's rock. Let's get on the field and go. Let's go win some football games, man, because the fan base definitely needs it. Joe, appreciate you as always, man. You always, ever since remember out in LA on the rooftop, man.
You know it. Let's ride.
Hey, Giants country. Let's ride. Peace, brother. Hey, thank you guys for writing in. Thank you guys for rocking with us. See you guys on draft night. If you're going to be at Giants Stadium at the Giants draft party, I'm going to be your MC that night. Make sure you come up. Let's take a picture. Want to get you guys for some post-game interviews, especially when it talks about reactions to the picks. It's here. It's all. Well, we're getting closer, but it's almost here. A couple weeks away. Joe, appreciate you hopping on with us, man. This was the New York